Olá, muito bom dia, sejam todas muito bem-vindas, sejam todos muito bem-vindos. Antes de iniciarmos,
before we start,
este evento está
we
sendo
want
transmitido
to let
em
you
inglês
know
e
that
português
this
no YouTube da
event
Confederação Nacional da Indústria,
is
a
being
CNI. Portanto, você que nos
transmitted in
acompanha
English and
online, seja
in
muito bem-vinda, seja muito
sign
bem-vindo.
language.
É
And
grande
welcome
prazer
everyone.
recebê-los para o evento
It's a
Finanças
pleasure to have you
Sustentáveis,
all
impulsionando
here
o futuro do setor
to
produtivo,
the
que tem
event
como
of
objetivo debater os
sustainable
diferentes aspectos
finance,
das
which
finanças
has
sustentáveis no contexto do setor
the
produtivo,
goal to
ampliando
discuss the sustainable finance in the future and how to develop the tools which are available to all of us. It's very important to let you know that to have this opportunity to discuss, it's important to have this, to take the leverage, to take the opportunity to discuss how this, the development of sustainable instruments. Before we start, we will have in the here the chairman of Speak Up, Ricardo. We're going to greet to everyone. The stage will be to Ricardo Muniz, the chairman. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. it's a pleasure to be with the chairman with the SB Cup. We had some issues, but like everyone else around the world, but we want to greet all of you, all the collaborators, and the one in charge of the SB Cup to Cup. Yesterday, we received the green light to present. So we're going to have a higher responsibility we have to expand our relations to institutional relations. Yeah, and we have to enlarge this to a size that other countries didn't have to get that. And it's important to thank all of you, all of the ones who are in charge of the organization of the COP. And it's important to greet all of you as well that has been sustaining the trail up to the COP. So we are going to talk today about the sustainable relations. Before this event, we have been chatting, and today we're going to have this chat to all of you. But before we talk about sustainable finance, we are going to talk to Levy. It's a pleasure to have you here. And we have a great curiosity because most of us work on thesis, but sustainable finance, there is somebody who has been taking care of this day by day, but these are the companies. So the entrepreneurs, they are the thermometers that will measure how it's going to be developed or managed. So let's talk to you as a managed. What is the pain to the market? And then there was high impact. Where you realized that there was more adherence to the market? Well, thank you, Ciani, to bring us, to have us here. Myself and Lou have been talking every day about all the events. When we are talking about sustainable financing, so every time we talk about something sustainable, it's easy to have financing. For example, the coal, it's easy to find somebody, but it's also the fact, but because it's very fast, because in this situation we have here, it's a little bit harder because it's not ready yet. So people haven't realized how big is the challenge we are facing. I used to work in a company, and there was a guy who used to understand a lot about sustainable energy. And we were talking about this, and then we were converting something to see how much energy there was there. And we needed to multiply that to 200. It's very hard to get this migration. It's not ready to get that. So we need the capital, the money to have this, to make this. So when you were getting this investment, we need to have all the things settled. And also because now we have something very recent, we are getting everything ready. So we need to have everything settled before we have the financing. So when we have to discuss these about the money to get that, it's very interesting to have everything explained. And this is the role to find some technologies because before having all those technologies we have today, it was very hard to make this provision. So nowadays, the cost of the capital per year, it's much more complex than before. And then we have to bring people out of Brazil to make some investments in here. So before it was very hard to have. Lou is going to talk about a lot about this before later. So everything we have, the Fomento Bank has a role in the whole thing. The development bank has the role in the whole organization. The hardest thing for me back there, it was to have the right math to get these accounts correct. Nowadays we have something different because we have much more other tools to get this, but it's harder to make these faster, to have all this information. And for me, what is my role? It's seeing what is working and multiply this and spread this. I had never had any difficulties to talk about any kind of project. So nowadays, the investment talk, I show the project, and I use it to say the zip code of Brazil, and they use it to put a plus situation to have this project done. For example, if my project was in the United States, the risk was lower. The market used it to bring more money. It was easier, but here it's different. This is the problem, but the solution I would let Lou talk later because she's going to talk about this later. And also we are going to have this opportunity to hear from her. And you're bringing some data, some very important data. CNI is one of was one of the first company to have this kind of source. And this was the legislative agenda was created like for the CNI, and now the CNI here in Brazil has 27 organization in its umbrella, and we have lots of collaborators. We have a great power, but we get stuck when we have to talk about Brazil cost. In the last evaluation we had, the cost of the transactions of money in companies is 20% of GDP. So lots of money is lost every year. And this is most of the time, it's related to the logistic. And we know that this is like the root of the hardest problem. But every time we have a project, we take this we make these choices in the back that was surprising, which was the fervy and also cabotage. Just to think, before we had 150, now we have 35,000 kilometers in fervy. In 1935, nobody here was alive, were born in that time. 2035, we have 30.6 kilometers. So we got lower. So if we're going to talk about finance, sustainable finance, every time into that we transport in fervy, we are increasing our sustainable situation. But there's something much more severe. And all these 5-year trail, just 230 is just operating in the whole world. So when we are going to discuss this, we have to get out of this page and go to action, because we must have the whole legal apparatus. For example, the legals need to take a look to the company and see how the company needs to go on, and how this can be dangerous or risky to the companies. And it's very important what you have been saying. So that's why I'm coming back now to the CNI. And how do you feel about this CNI opportunity, since we are getting closer to the COP? And what have you have been looking, since you have been talking to the coaches, and how we can approach the Confederation to have the goal to get closer to the companies, hear the companies. It's important to understand that the SP Cup first has the representativity. What is the important to understand is that we got connect the respectfully have, and how we get to know people, and we know the outlined structure, and Sinai is working with that. And we have 68 countries here taking, they have their association, which has totally open talk to the governing, and seeing how it's going to work to talk to the governing. And this is very important, because Sinai has this, because it has a very nice outlined structure to have this talking. We have now 67 countries, which is managed to the branch offices of CNI. And this is first the representativities. So when I went to Germany to talk about this copy, we brought here, this is the SPCOP, we have the advisors, we have the workforce, and then the private sector, they started to organize the whole thing. And then first we have the representativity, and the second, it was to have the idea to call the CEOs to talk about this and form a great networking between them, like we did in G20. And we brought very skillful people to discuss about this. And then we have lots of people talking and discussing about this. And it's very important to have this kind of material, which is excellent to discuss this. And we can break the pragmatism of the market to make this happen. So for me, it's very important to see how good Sinai and the expert is skillful people networking and working, because they are not here just for theories. They're having they're here to get hands-on things, very practical decisions to have. And I have a friend, I was discussing to a friend about this, and I have a very nice person who have a philanthropy event, and sometimes this money is not allocated very well. And this is very important to understand how it works to allocate this well. So when we are discussing about a project, we have to understand the project to allocate this money to have the interests. So if you are going to invest this money, you take a part of the money to have financing, a risk financing, and then the other part of the money you get to the private sector. So this way you're going to get this money working for you. So if you get just the money from the other countries, it's very complicated to have those, and then we'll have some kind of problems. So we cannot work only for philanthropies. We have to, for example, we cannot charge those countries which are rich to help us. So this is sometimes it doesn't work. So this is not logical, right? The important here is to make business and also to get those points which are the neck of the problem. So to getting this finishing, you brought these two very important situation. You brought the governance, right? So the greatest challenge, the biggest challenge that I've seen in this whole path, which is meant to it's managed to by Levy for many years. I'm here for 2 years. So since we are talking about new market, if you don't approach these the CEO to the market or the private sector public, that they need to make some investment to the core of this, but it's not the core of the business, but the core of the mind, how we are going to support this path. The energetic transition, it's not going to happen from day by night. No, we need how it's going to be replaced the coal to the petrol. It's used to be easier because of the one point, the cost. The society will get this, and nowadays we need to make people understand that they will need to pay to make this transition. It's not from the entrepreneurs to have this investment done, but the society. And it's important to have this governance of the market, which is important, that and this kind of subject needs to be in the people's agenda. For example, today we're going to discuss about CBAN, and if we don't look CBAN as a tool, which is a sustainable tool, we are going to have it biased. So these we need to talk very fast and make it happen very fast to have this governance to the climate, the sustainable cities. We need to be closer to these people and the voice inside of this part. Otherwise, we're going to be all the time fixing the OTEC, the view, which is the reality view, which is we are going to keep doing the solar panels and people paying. Is this the cost of this, which we don't produce this material here in Brazil? We must understand that because, for example, we don't. For example, in 2013 in CDA, it's 14 billions, which was shared to all of us. And now today it's almost 50 billion. So we have a very cheaper energy, but the cost is very high. And this goes to the product. So these will bring inflection, will be bringing products.
So when we think of different utilities, like fridges, for example, that could be used at a low cost, that all doesn't really reach the minorities, people that are living in poverty. So still thinking about what you've said, still mentioning governance, we really need to work on that line. What do we need to do after SB COP? How do we work on that agenda of SB COP? So this is something that I would like to leave you with, a little bit of food for thought. We would like to have you all participating with us, thinking about this governance for the future, thinking about sustainability. Because if not, then we're going to go back. We're not going to have a threefold participation, which is so important for this dialogue. There you go. I really believe that's the point. I think we came up with something very good with CNI, something really powerful, really well organized with a lot of representation. It really draws a lot of different heads to take care of it. And I really think a proof of that is this material that we're going to deliver in New York. We're going to have some recommendation to the president, the COP president. There is a great opportunity for us to have the COP in Brazil this time. For the private sector, this is going to be quite significant. We're going to have a lot of space in order to speak about this problem. And we know that, the COP is not going to end in November. We're going to have underlying a chain effect, if you will. And we're going to have a lot of legacy to be left by CNI after the COP 30. We're going to have been able to organize the private sector from where the solution has to come. This is the place where we actually can work on innovation. That's where the capital lies too. So that's where the solution lies. It really needs to count on governance, mobility. This is the first time we do that from CNI to the world, but we have to take care for that to continue going. David is going to come up with a model for the SB COP to continue leaving this wonderful legacy in the years ahead. It was born here, and it's going to continue going on in the world. That's it. So just for us to wrap it up, I really believe that those numbers are important. Whenever we look abroad to other sectors, for example, the productive sectors have 80%. The industries have between 7 or 10% of the emissions. We have so much to present to the world during the COP30. So we really need to be able to voice all of that in behalf of the country, in behalf of the Brazilian products, the Brazilian goods. I think this is the main challenge that we've got to tackle. So now I'm going to hand it over to our friend, our chairman, for us to hear Joaquim Levy. We're going to hear him now. Thank you. Thank you, Muniz. Thank you, Mussa. We are very thankful for your participation in this opening session. And for our next session, we're going to have the global flow of the climatic financing. We're going to have a little organization of the public and also private capital in order to tackle the climatic obstacles. We're going to have Joaquim Levy to discuss that with us. Good morning, everyone. So it's very nice to have this opportunity. And this initiative is great. It's very nice to have this warm-up with our president, Mussa, our senator too. I'm going to try to give you an overview. Climatic finances, what is that about? What are we talking about? What are the dimensions in Brazil, for example? What does that mean for us here in Brazil? This is something that has different levels, different sizes, different implications, different ways to approach. There are different ways to contribute towards that. And later on, I'm going to tell you why the Climate Hub has such an important role in this regard, together with other agents too. We know that the climatic transition today is a global challenge. Just like the senator said before, Brazil has this very important position, a particular one, if you will, because we have many advantages from the point of view of the natural resources and also institutional ones. We know that, that there's lots to improve, but when we look at it, we have a lot of institutional factors that give us an advantage at the upper hand when compared to other countries. We have a unified electric system. which allows us to negotiate electricity in different places of the country. We have an integrated study. We have BNDES, which is a powerful tool. So many countries are jealous of that. Sometimes North America would love to have that too. This NDC is very important. So it causes the whole climatic finances have a different reality, if you will, here in our country when compared to other countries. But something that was raised before in our discussion, thinking about those relative advantages is not enough. We really need knowledge. We need institutions together. We need different mechanisms that are going to allow you to mobilize resources in order to take advantage of all of those perks. And then it comes to communication and transparency. That is all very important. So how much do you need? How much do you need for that electricity transition, or energy transition? We know that most of it is just about an expansion. Sometimes we have to mix different flows. We need to migrate from one source to another. If you want to grow in that field, we're going to need more energy. And what we want is that new energy source, we want it to be sustainable, of course. And we know that this is not way more expensive than what we have now. This is what we're going to discuss about Brazil. And something else that needs to be something that is going to require a lot more resources is adaptation. So if we mitigate the emissions, we're going to have another effect. It's true that we're still in the process of having that mitigation going on during the past 10 years. But we really believe that compared to what we did last year, for example, we see that this is an ongoing process. When we think of extreme events, adaptation has a highlight that is very important. We really need to get ready to face more challenging situations, rainstorms, earthquakes, droughts, and other things of the like. In Rio Grande do Sul, for example, last year, we had a lot of expenses. We had taxation impacts. There are so many different places that are still suffering there. Many of the things that happen there, they show the importance of the public agency. So we really need to have that together. We know that it's difficult to count on the private sector only. So this is the big situation here. We need to make this transition from an energetic point of view, but we have to involve other factors too. We have the upper hand here in Brazil. Of course, we have some problems such as deforestation. One of most of the emissions that we have here are connected to illegal deforestation. But on the other side, the emissions caused by our industries are quite reduced. So that's worth mentioning too. We have the carbon market, that's true, but most of our industries have already found sustainable solutions through electrification or using biomass. So most of the emissions that we have are the steel plants, for example. Most of them emit lots of carbon due to the utilization of fossil fuel. We want to, for example, transform iron ore. We usually take the oxygen out of it, and the whole process causes a lot of emission. We know that some solutions are quite far in the future. And well, this is something that still is not seen in the world. It's not just the problem of Brazil. But there are some deeper things that need to be done. And as I said, most of the industries today predominantly uses either biomass or electricity. So there is a lot of work to do in the ore sectors, for example. And reinforcing what I've said before, I really like these these graphs that you can see. We made it a few years ago. Mackenzie made that. We have two. On the left, we see a profile that needs to be adjusted, of course. I think it was probably made 4 years ago. We adjusted this graph to the decarbonization scenarios. How much do we need in investments to actually reach that? How to electrify the fleet and some other measures too. And we think about that within the next 25 years. For example, in my opinion, something that is really interesting about these graphs is that for us to mitigate the emissions, we're not gonna spend a lot more money, but we need organization. We need some sort of regulatory incentive in order to tackle some of the challenges, initial challenges that we might encounter. But for example, we have $275 trillion. So we're going to have to be able to spend all of that. For example, if you need to change your car, you might need to buy a conventional one or an electric car. You have to make a choice. Sometimes you can think about heat systems, conventional ones, or you can use something that is more sustainable. It's your choice. In Brazil, particularly speaking, using more sustainable systems is definitely cheaper. The biggest difficulties that we see in Brazil is because we have a stock, an industrial stock, and we have to adjust it. And then that might be a bit expensive, that's true. And the profit is going to be affected, but then that's going to be necessary in order to invest in that kind of modernization, especially when it comes to the steel plants, the steel businesses. So when we think about finances, climatic finances, for us to decarbonize, oh, I'm going to have to spend a lot of money. No, it's not just that. We need to change our profile. We need to think about the costs. We're going to anticipate our expenses in order to work on the conversion between currencies. And this is the art of finances. We really have to work on different money flows, which need to be changeable. So this is what finances are all about. So we're not producing money out of nowhere. This is hard, isn't it? We don't produce money. We don't make money out of the blue. No, we always have to think about the risks. We think about the different networks involved. But the thing is, we have to work with all of that. So transition is essentially a matter of organizing ourselves. We can come with some deposits when it comes to the investments. And one of the ways to do that, that's quite subtle, it's implicit, I might say, but that's through what started maybe 10 years ago. We have the Prime Minister of Canada. One of his initiatives, he called it the Bloomberg Report, which was the different companies showing the different climatic risks to which they were subjected. This has evolved a bit, and besides showing those risks that they were facing, to which they were subjected, they would also show what kinds of actions they were planning to carry out in order to mitigate their carbon imprints. So this has been advancing. And now the accountants global department, the IFRS 1 and 2, together they are going to guide this whole project. Number one is a bit more conceptual. Number two is a bit more practical. So we're going to see different financial demonstrations of your climatic exposition and of your sustainability actions. But what is the relation between all of that to what we're saying? From the moment companies actually do that, from the moment they work with disclosure and transparency, then that's the moment we're going to be able to make it easier for the investor to really know which company is more vulnerable, how they are preparing to mitigate that vulnerability. And that can be either physical, of course, but also connected to different actions that governments need to take for that company to change their behavior. So after we have that all reported, well, then that's the moment we are able to guide those capital flows in order to take care of those carbon footprints, for us to have a competitive market, for people to make good decisions when it comes to investments and the leasing of, and the placement of capital. This is all through notification, letting people know, spreading the news. For example, if we have a certain company here with a certain footprint, I want to mitigate that. I want to reduce it to 0 in a certain year. But is that going to be out of the blue with a magic wand? Do you have a strategy? What is it then? Show it to us. What is your investment strategy? How are you placing your capital? And then if you think about a minimal competition that we see, even due to all of that, you're going to see that you're going to have success. And the investor is going to see it. They're going to see that you're trying to mitigate your carbon footprint. But why don't you invest in places where, for example, wind energy, windmills are easy to install, clean energy is easy to install? Why are you not making it up for your carbon emission with things that are cheaper or greener, if you will? So you really have to think about how to improve the efficiency of that transaction or transition, sorry. I know that everybody wants to save money. We don't want to have a lot of expenses. A few years ago, for example, in France, we had the Gilets jaunes, if you remember. They said, oh, we don't want to have taxation. They had the yellow jackets, yeah? You probably remember that. So little by little, we noticed that advancement is connected to efficiency. And a way for the investors to really understand how those companies are making their choices is through this. Here in Brazil, I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler. We adopted CVM, this regulation, and from 2026, going on 2027, we're going to have new requirements for those companies. This is something that we have to keep working on quite thoroughly. At first, we're going to apply that to big companies. But when a big company has that commitment, we really need to understand how they are working on that. Normally, they come to their vendors and suppliers and they say, look, we have this new practice, we have adopted it, and now you're going to have to conform to it. So this is what we do. We have a chain reaction. We transmit what we're trying to do to other companies too. And for the financial sector, this is going to have a very nice effect, because when we have these new challenges to tackle, when it comes to new investments and all, who are they going to turn to in order to get that financing? So we're going to see that this is going to be the enabler to that transition. It's not about threatening. I'm going to cut you off if you don't do that, you don't conform. But instead, it's like working together. I see that you've got a challenge. So we, from the financial sector, we want to help you out. So this is the big architecture when it comes to climatic finances. So there are some people that are dedicated to work on these measures, how they are translated and transformed. For example, CPI is one of them. I am actually a part of it. And they've been working with those numbers. We're still growing those numbers. We're still below what is really satisfying. And in Brazil, look at that. We've been really growing, even more compared to other countries. This is good news. And now we have this question, this issue. Most of the climatic issues need to be mitigated. It's really important. We need to convert to sustainable energy sources. And also, we've got to work on some adaptation too. They need to work. For example, a company, when they build a new factory, they need to think about how to protect themselves from, for example, floodings. Adaptation is really important, especially when it comes to regulations. When you think about, for example, a motorway, if you need some procurements for that, you need some government permit. Of course, you're going to have to hold it back for some time. to get the best procedures. Whenever you think of an auction for that motorway, you need to think about it, about its resilience. For example, if I have floodings tomorrow, I need to think about how that motorway is going to behave. This is prevention. So we have to think about all of that. We're going to think about how things are going to happen in 20 years.
And here in Brazil, I think I'm going to allow myself to talk a little about this in front of the Mussa's president. This must be a message which is essential in Brazil's message in the copy. Mainstream finance in Brazil, green energy in Brazil. The most part of the sustainable finance in Brazil which is tonic or not tonic, which is red flag, whatever it is, which is the demand profile. Our participation must be through all the green alternatives, mainly in the part of electricity, but also in biogas. I think the unique piece which is missing is about the electric car. We have the hybrid cars, which has the energy and also the gas, which get lower 30% of the use of the biogas we have. And this is the crescent, the growing line. And this we have the more impactive context and numbers, figures that we have to understand. And also we have those green energy, which brings the electric bus, also deforestation. The green finance mainstream is very important because day by day, these kind of projects, which brings deforestation, also agro, also commercial forest, these bring a rule of sustainability. For example, if I'm going to plant cocoa, this way I'm going to rebuild the whole native forest. I can use those wood to build a mosaic. For example, I can produce those wood. When we have a green economy, we need to bring both markets together. So it's feasible market which is organized, and I think this is an event that we must spread. We must keep on doing, because like this, it was said in the first section we had here, it's important to have those networking. And we have some advantages that fewer have. We have a climate which allow us to have these kind of projects. And this is the biggest financing, climate financing we must have. And day by day will be happening all the time. And I'm sure the SP Cup will help to advance into this. Well, this is a report we published that showed the main actors in the sectors. If we had to explain all this before, it would be scary. Of course, as in every kind of every country, we have the core organization. We have CNI, SNZ, etc. and also the regulators, the central bank. And we have the option of other institutions that will help us to get the information, the necessary information that will build the banner, index, some other information we need. Of course, this is a very important work from Hub, and this is going to discuss all the structure we need to have the climate financing we need. We're not going to distribute this printed, but if you can have a screenshot if you want to. This means that you have many sources, financial sources here. We have the public, the private ones. We have Development Bank. We have Inter-American Development Bank. And the private one, we have many other agents, the philanthropies, till the other companies, passing through many other kinds of sources, private sources. I guess this will be very detailed discussed by later, but this is very important to have these, to understand how to reallocate risks, and it are important to have these kind of strategies to have. And also, of course, we have the sector that these can happen. It can vary. Also, we have the transition of very important. We are discovering that we are going to add info if we don't have the rentability. If you don't have the carbon we can increase 20%, 15%, or 3.18 if you have the biomethane, and if you are also have the carbon credit. And we know this, but I think we must take them knowing are the really to the challenge. This is very small, but if we have a very focused actions, this is not going to bring the biggest or enough supporting back. I was the CFL Center Bank, and it was a company very important, but they nowadays different. They changed the way they count and they make the accountability of how they manage. And then when I started, they used to consider just the financing of the countries which were bigger, but nowadays they do everything, which is also limited. But the biggest investment we have, or just lower the biggest, the one it needs to happen. Most of this financing must be the private sector. We don't need to have obstacles to stuck this, but this is the responsibility of the private sector. Even the inspections to extend the due. So it's important to have these in, for example, in 10, they have to. For example, if the factor which is sustainable, which has no sanctions, which will be working in 15, then it's important to have this kind of the limited factories around. And something which is growing in Brazil is the capital market. So they have the auctions also, and they have the great role. They have the green bond. So some others are bound structure, which are helping our development. Also, mainly to financing Hervey. And the COP30, I think we're going to discuss later, but one of the biggest initiative is the TFF, which is a fund, which we're going to reunite lots of capital, and we are going to use just a little of the interest which we'll get to invest in the forest, in the tropical forests. We must understand that if we lose those forests, we are going to get a warm global warming harder. And then if we have this kind of fund, it's important to have this. It's a great contribution to the sustainability, the world's sustainability. And the market, the carbon market, and that accept the emission reduction in the activities which is connected to the nature. When you take, for example, the ethanol production or the methane, or change to the ethanol to the methane, or get to the atmosphere, everything, every action of this has a value. So if we can advance in the carbon market, it's very important. It's part of the interests of Brazil, not only Brazilian, but also the global interests. For example, the G20, it was aligned about the pattern to characterize the carbon credits. We are not going to get just few information, but all of the information to make it easy to negotiate. And this is one of the objective, the goals of the organizers of the G20. The carbon market is one of the biggest markets, and the climate market. If it really grows, we are talking about hundreds of dollars that we are not going to achieve onto the World Bank. So the TFF, it's very important. So we're going to talk about the how it's going to work. We must have the donors, the ones will have the raise capital. It's very important to Brazil to be working on this to get those countries which will make this investment. The Arabics, the Chinese, some other countries from Africa. We need to look for those investors, and they must bring those investment to the plan. Some other thing we have been working on, it's another opportunity to bring much more investment into Brazil. It's a platform called BIP, which is a system which was developed by BNS and Bloomberg, and also these will help us to get these investments. After 1 year, we have some other projects which were received some investment, some projects relate to energy, some restorations, some forestation, some other things. And what we do, we bring body to those projects, and it's very important to have those. And then we need to get this information. For example, we need fertilizer. Who's going to produce that? So we're going to bring some other investor to get that, some other company which will provide that. So we have the aviation gas, which is done by using Palmeira, which is very important to have these very well organized in a very clear organization, which will be very useful and easier to understand all those information about the climate change. There are other instruments we have been working on, taxonomy, which is very important, which, for example, I'm an investor, and then, oh, nice, I need some good project. So we have some projects, and then having the taxonomy in back. The past taxonomy used it to be related to bug, but nowadays it's not related to that, right? I have already talked about the carbon market, the governing incentives, which give us some good palms, and some capital market, which have been becoming much more important, and it has been showing its the advantages they have. And we must have some other information, some other instruments that have been very well successful. And it's very important, some other thing to wrap up, we have here information related to the information need to spread. And we have here some very important information here. We are talking about generation energy. We have here some other reports that are that we have been talking to the companies, and how we can divulgate this in a better way, how we can improve it to get more understandable. And this is the idea, to give the information, compare the information between the companies in a way that the global capital can judge in a way that it's important or not. And here it's the information we have been talking before. We have the average, the global average here, and we have Brazilian one. We have here 13, 14, like 3 more times than ours, and better than ours. Of course, we have the companies here, but we don't add the name here, but we can see how they can influence well. And when we talk about climate sector, we can see that the company can do well. They show they can do well. And there's some others, they are good, but they cannot show how good they are. So we must have those information. They have to improve their divulgation, to spreading this news, to having this very good. So when everything is very good, it's going to get stable, and it's not going to improve more, but I think it's something that will happen. The Andre ambassador always says that Brazil has climate solutions. And when we take a look to companies, the different sectors, we can see that they have those solutions. And we can see how we are positioning in the market and how it works and what is attractive into Brazil or not. And I have a poetic freedom here. Do you know what is this seed? It's Jequitibá. It's a very powerful, and it comes from this small seed. And then we can do it like spreading those seeds to have the biggest solution. Thank you, everyone.
We would like to thank President Joaquim Levy for his presentation. Now, continuing with our panels, we would like to invite to the platform for our first panel, talking about the different climatic financing solutions in Brazil. We have a CNI director and moderator of this panel, Muniz. Mr. Muniz, we would like to invite the CEO from the Finance Work Group and Investment for SB COP, Luciana Ribeiro, and also here with us on this panel online, we have the Sub-Secretary of Sustainable Development, Cristina Reis, and also working with capitals and structured finances in South America and Latin America and the Caribbean, Natalia Gios. Our goal here is to discuss different ways for Brazil to be able to amplify their resources globally when it comes to financing, climatic financing. Let's hand it over to Roberto Muniz. Very good. There you go. It's a pleasure for me to be here. It's very nice to salute Ricardo Mussa and also our Minister Joaquim Levy, who has presented some so important things to guide SB COP. And for us to actually have those warnings on how important it is to continue this debate, this discussion under the lenses of sustainability. Through the lenses of all of that, we have to come up with the importance we have this important need of having the private sector. Hello, Cristina Reis. I would like to say hello, who works with the sustainability sector in the financial department in Brazil. So we would like to hear the government stance. We're going to see the government stance in this regard, but would like to say hello to Natalia. Oh, Natalia is online over there. We have Natalia Diaz, who works with the structuring of finances and investment in South America and the Caribbean. We're going to see her points of view on that. And Luciana, who coordinates this work group at SB COP. She is the head of the group, and she's got a great experience in all of that when it comes to capital management. So thank you very much for being among so many incredible women. This is very nice to fortify and strengthen the thoughts about decarbonization for future generations. So I would like to kick it off by contextualizing you a bit. The importance of... Oh, by the way, welcome, Natalia. We have already introduced you. So first of all, I'd like to say that we're going to have an initial question. Each of you will have 5 minutes to answer. And then we're going to have a specific question for each of you. And then you're going to have 5 more minutes. So we're going to solve the world's problem in 10 minutes. So you can say that you're a politician and then get ready to solve it all. We see so many complex issues. So the first question is, well, we have some factors which are very, very important for us to be distinguished as a positive environment to attract resources. Sustainable bonds. For example, when it comes to energy, 50% of it comes from renewable sources, whereas OCDE it's just below that. So if you want to make good businesses, if you want to do business, you just come to Brazil, and that's quite attracting when it comes to decarbonization. So all of those factors are very important and need to be taken into account. But when we take a look at the competition, because of course we're not alone in the world, we have very bad numbers. CNI works on a rank of competition, and we take a look at 18 different economies in the world, and we are in the last position. We are the 18th country producing that. We have a lot of potential. It's already installed, by the way. We have a serious problem with the competition. So we really have to take a look at the Brazilian industry as one that is competing in this world, in this wild world. There is ambition, there is reality at the same time. So how do we actually make them work together? And then another issue, which is our potential. When we analyze the macro indicators of that we have, the macro indicators that we've seen, the low carbon emission, we are in 12th. So we start going up a bit. We have a huge potential to offer so that those international resources come to us. But what is the bottom line? In the past years, all of the resources are not distributed in those countries. They are usually concentrated, all of those investments are concentrated in Asia, Europe, the United States, and Canada. Almost 80% of those resources are being diverted there. Those markets are already well developed, so our potential is a bit overlooked. It is not really being it's not really being worked on. For example, in 2021 and 2022, so that out of all of those resources, only 3% of the global resources deployed in that market came to Brazil. So this is what is going to guide us throughout this discussion. We really have to analyze our situation. We have to analyze our steps, where we are actually stepping on. This is natural. But it's important for us to work together, to come and unify, looking at everything through the sustainability lenses, through green products, through sustainable financing. So we really need to highlight the importance of all of the manufacturing industries, the Brazilian ones. They are vital to maintain this chain and transform all of that potential in reality. So it's true that we are just a bit behind COP30. Within a few months, we're going to have it started. It's an honor for the country to have it. I'm very happy to be in Belém, and I'm very happy that the event was brought here. Last year in Dubai, President Lula said something interesting. He said, I don't know we're going to have the best places to have a COP30, not when compared to Dubai. But we're going to have a lot of trees, and we can use the canopies, the tree canopies to hold those meetings. The point is, for the first time, we have the chance of having something big. We're going to be inside the forest, the Amazonian forest, taking a look at the potential of so many countries such as Brazil, who have done their homework, the Brazilian industry, who has really done their homework. So we're really going to be able to show that to the world. So considering the whole global connectivity in environmental issues, we see a huge potential, both for Brazil and also for the world, to actually capture international resources, which will be specifically used for long-term projects. So how do we put Brazil in the investment route, if you will? We would like you to mention 3 factors that will make the international environment a place where Brazil belongs. How do we make Brazil more attractive to those international investments? So what is your point of view individually? What can we offer in order to get those resources? What barriers do we need to overcome in order to offer innovative climatic solutions that can be escalated and also be part of the competition? So I'm going to hand it over to Cristina Reis. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for your partnership and for collaborating in this important issue. You know that Minister Haddad had a vital role in bringing that topic into the finance department. Economy has to be a part of it. So, Cristina, you've got 5 minutes to talk about that, to talk about such a complex challenge. I know that you're very competent, so that's going to help us to keep it in time. Can you hear me properly? It's important for me to tell you that we're going to use 20 seconds just to salute everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to thank you all in behalf of all of those that couldn't be here. So it's very nice to see Valentiana. So we are really sorry the interpretation has been made difficult due to the quality of the sound from the room. We are really happy to see how everything has been made concrete, consolidated. This week we had some measures for sustainability that have been approved. So we've really been trying to work on the different economic activities, and the productive sector has also been involved. So we've been really working on the transformation of energy. We've been having the participation of CNI, which was very important. So it's really nice to see all of that. It's something that is going to have more and more requirements for us to actually improve our situation. We're going to receive more demand. Information needs to be made available for us to have those requests met in order for us to have a better adaptation process. We have different tools that we need to use. We really need to see how we can actually be catching up with those different countries that have been working with sustainability. Once again, we would like to apologize from the interpretation booth. The sound from the room is really bad at the moment. Please bear with us. When it comes to the investments, we see that the balance between the private sector and the public sector investment is really not good. For each R$1 in the private sector, we have in the public sector, we have 6 or 7 in the private sector. That is an issue that needs to be tackled. We've been trying to redirect enormous amounts of money to things that can be really useful when it comes to the sustainability measures that we're trying to bring forth. We've been working with different resources that have been added up. We've been working with the regulatory departments too. And this brings us a very interesting outlook on the whole issue. So we really believe that in 2023 and 2024, those years were very important for us to ameliorate, to improve what we had before. And we noticed that those investments are really happening right now. For example, before we presented a study that showed what the projects that we have include when it comes to investments, thinking about those sectors that can be elected to participate in that. We have over 2,000 different projects to deploy all of that. And all of that amounts to 430 billion reais, which is really good. It's a lot of money that is going to be used in a climatic transformation measure. So we're really building a better future. Of course, we're going to have to work on monitoring, and we see a very positive look. We have a very positive look on what's going to happen. Very good. Now we're going to be able to interpret properly. Now we're going to hand it over to Natalia Diaz. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? All right, very good. First of all, I would like to apologize for not being able to be there. I would like to thank CNI. And I believe we have this challenge of talking about such a complex thing in such little time. But I really believe that we have two colleagues, Cristina, Luciana, which is a feminine panel made of women. So I really believe that we're going to have a lot to talk about in this short time that we're going to have. I really believe that you mentioned something really interesting about the upper hand that Brazil has. And I think there are two important points that need to be highlighted. The availability of natural resources is one of them, which can be aligned to the abundance of cheap energy in an integrated system that allows for rethinking on how to make everything green and how to insert Brazil in the different global chains. So this is the opportunity that we have from this energy transition. And we know that Brazil and South America has this potential. When we talk about climatic financing, we have good news. So, for example, last year we had $2 trillion on a global level. So we're going on the right way. But a problem that was quite well pinpointed in your speech is that those resources are distributed in a way that is not so equal. So we have many different competitions in developed markets. So we have to say that less than 15% of those are being directed to less developed markets. So, for example, the transport sectors receive a lot of those, but we have very little that is being directed to new technologies and nature-based solutions. So we are always focusing on mitigation and adaptation that is being funded by the public sector. We really know a lot about those opportunities, and we know many of the challenges that need to be tackled. That's been reinforced already. So besides the competition that we see on a global level, all the subsidies that those developed markets have, we have to remember too that something that has been changing in our planning capacity on the long run, which is necessary at this moment. For example, we think about the problem with conversion when it comes to the differences between different currencies. So that has really diminished our attractiveness in getting those resources. Some of the advances that we wanted to carry out have been in the way. All of the productivity issues are also a problem. For example, having workforce that is actually capacitated, that is another problem. So we're really talking about how difficult it is for minor projects to become feasible. Something else that I would like to highlight, we've been working a lot on the capital markets, but it's still very little relevant. And we know that this is a part of the solutions globally. We're talking about $146 trillion, but less than 5% of that are coming to emergent markets. For example, that would be very little. So in my opinion, I would like to focus on this second part of my speech, the solutions. I believe that Cristina has already mentioned something important. So we really need to work on a coordinated way between governments, the private initiatives, both corporations that invest on the financial ecosystem, for us to be able to advance this matter. From the government, for example, they need to come up with a good planning. We need to come with enabling the environment, they have been really gaining the spotlight for all of the points that Joaquim Levy has brought up to us. When we think about ecologic transformation, when we think of the priorities that need to be given, CNDI, our advances in the carbon market, the funding for tropical forests. When we think about the development banks, all of those have a vital role. We've been working in the downstream and the upstream. We work with technical assistance. We try to work with the regulatory systems too, creating different tools that will make it feasible for the investment to be canalized and channeled, mitigating the different risks in those projects for us to be able to mobilize the private financing too. And the financing, the private one, both commercial banks and the private sector, will have a leading role in that. There are some things that we sometimes forget, but there are some important points that we need to remember, such as the partnership between different agents. For example, we had the ethanol and the sugar departments or markets, which were very important in the industrialization of paper and celluloses. So when the government really works on, for example, agriculture and commerce through the SAFRA program, for example, we see that there is a lot of benefits. And then I see that Luciana and Mussa have been taking the lead in that regard wonderfully. We're going to see some evidence on that too.
And talking about bringing instruments, it's important to one of biggest investment is the Eco Invest, which is working with the ministries. It's important to address two different bottlenecks we have, and which is preparing projects and bringing financing. And we have national banks which are participating in the auctions and taking this part of the financing we have bringing and to implementing new sectors and technologies. And we have projects of development like BNDES, which is investing in the climate, and the IPCTR are investing to, IDB Invest is investing in this area as well. And to not get too long in this talk, and it's important to have this coordinated action in Brazil and help us to rethink about the whole how we have been investing those money and how we can do it for small projects. And we have to discuss this in the second. We have to discuss a little bit more about this second part of my talk. I just want to have any provoking of your talk, which was very good. Something we have been living in our daily life, and the production of energy, we are getting a very competitive price. But when we are consuming, for example, we have the gas, which is, it could be increase the green production. We have the very expensive gas in the world, and they have $13 the molecule. In other countries, it's $2. So I'm bringing some data of my base. This is my role. This is the industry role. And we must understand that we don't have cheap energy to produce green products. It's very important to understand this, because this will impact directly in the final price. And this takes us from the international representative, as we have seen before. And this is the capital market. It's fantastic. We are starting but we must find any way to make it cheaper to have these investment credits. We need if we have the instruments that are still starting in the market, if we keep doing this way we are doing, we won't have a very good future ahead. So now I'm going to get this talk to Luciana. I'm going to take it on the leverage to the gas information. First of all, I have to thank you, all of you. I have here, we have these women PM, which are my friends as well. It's important to have all these. I'm going to talk about something very, very common. I'm lawyer. I graduated in law, and I started working in a company in Rio Grande do Sul. And to Master Falcone used to say the managing for directresses. And when you have this managing directresses management, you have all the arrows going or pointing to the same side. And when we were going to have a very well succeeded country, when we have all the country in the world, when we have all the arrows pointing to the same side or the same goal. But honestly, I am very optimistic because in the last few years, taking these arrows to the same side have been working well. And we have some examples, some successful cases in Brazil. We have here the agribusiness, which is very important because they need productive quality, and it's connecting many sectors, governing, private, public, because we have to direct to the right side. Like Embraer, which is a company from a sector which is not so easy to deal with, but we have to address this to the same side. We have the IDB with a panel with IDB, which have a BIVA, BNDES, DIVA, because we have everybody has talked very well about this, and I have an alignment. I have seen an alignment of all these arrows in a way that it's long time I have not seen this. And this is very important to have the understanding as a country that the green theme is not just this about, but we are talking about the development engine of the country. And when we see all these sectors getting together, engaging in this project, it's important to see how this can improve, can grow. But of course, we can see the glass half full, half empty, of course. But we can be optimistic. We can see the eco investment, the green theme, and all the ethic. And we have to discuss the volatility. Every work done by the BNDES, how it was applied, how it was extended. One of the projects of the biomethane was done by the BNDES. It's, in my opinion, it's not something that we have a company, but it's a way to put Brazil in highlight and spotlight. Maybe, for example, if those projects which received those investment were not in the general radar, radar. So we have many ethical questions, situations, issues that we have to take Brazil to the right side. We have two things. We are talking that we are lending to the right part. Brazil, if we can see, we can export biogas, but we can produce this. But this wasn't something that we could do this here. But nowadays we are doing this. It's like from this project or regulations, we have some incentives of BNDES that brought those kinds of projects, which started the operation very soon. It's not because I'm from Rio Grande do Sul that we started there, but it has a goal, and we are taking the remain of the agro industry and using and producing biofertilizers, biomethanol, and what is used in the food industry. So you are taking everything which is wasted by the agro industry and making something usable. And now you can use this in a real price. Of course, we still have a long journey to get, because this is a very important subject. Of course, sometimes we have very big discussions with Joaquim, who has left already, related to this subject. We have some instruments that we need to deal. For example, the treasurer has lots of work to rethink about some modelings to apply this, and how we can reduce this financial risk. And we have the opportunity to go further, but we need to position the country as Brazil. Historically we have this positioning problem. When we are in outside and foreigners, we talk bad things about our country, but we need to change this. But if we take people from other countries, they also have problems, but they want to show how good they are. They will make some kind of list of good things. Of course, we have to talk about the good things we have in Brazil. We need to position Brazil in a different way. We are doing the Brazilian Summit in New York, for example. We also did in Paris. And for many years, we want to show Brazil in another way, the other side of Brazil. Of course, we are in a very hardcore part. Of course, we may not have the war change of natural source, but when we started doing the Brazilian summit, we thought that we didn't have so many opportunities to make a discussion about Brazil. And this year was wonderful because we brought the world into Brazil. And I have been doing this question, I have been questioning this to myself. What is the message we want to share? We have a great opportunity to share a very correct message, not only about the country, but the whole thing, but how we are going to participate in all this chain if we don't think of our country as a good place to invest. Lucena, it's nice one of the the biggest enemy of Brazil of course, are the Brazilians, because we live here to extend, to expose our problems. It's a very big problem we can solve. Of course, we have going further in a very good way, but the application of this fear theory, for example, if you live from BNDES in a project which was placed, prioritized, now it's available, but to that water, which is in theory to get in the Brazilian tap, there is a very complex process that we must do it out, but we need to understand the very severe problems we have here. The financing, it's very important. To the industry, which is a very long journey, we must understand that we cannot stop fixing these problems. We have to face it, because the amount of things, little things we create, or obstacles we create, there are many families that have the possibilities to have those benefits, and it's real. But who's going to pay these bills? The industry, the companies, these small size, because they couldn't leave just the small market they are in. We take the poor people don't pay the energy, but we take the chicken expensive. The agribusiness has been growing a lot in Brazil. We are very proud of it. And we have the projects which are modern, the highest modern in the world. We must show this. When we are going to talk about this, the Brazilian sedan, we have the next year a tour, the sedan from Europe. We must understand what are the factors that change the fee obstacles, and how we are going to deal with all this, what we are going to measure, what has been proved, how we're going to make it more competitive to the market. I've always said that what is the big P? It's just a geopolitical challenge war. We are not there discussing about a land, a soil land. We know the importance of this, but in the end, they want the industry are there because they want the change grow inside of the country. And this is important because it's geopolitical war and it's economic war. And the Dr. Cristina needed to leave, unfortunately, but you will have more time to discuss later. So she had another appointments scheduled. But Natalia, thanks for taking advantage that you are here. Now seeing that for the unhappily of the humanity, because it seems to be a no way back journey. When we think about the political thing, we need to have this kind of way of going around of this. And there are some other actors that can bring the public sectors or private sectors. and how we can implement some solutions that can help and can have this in a very good way, in a way to make it increase. Well, thank you, Roberto. Well, this will give me the opportunity to talk a little about the IDB. We are a multilateral bank, and we have the focus in Latin America and Caribbean.
The GDP in the region is of $7 trillion. So we have a huge market with lots of people in 4 different languages. And we have an interregional commerce of 15%, which is way below the global average in Asia and Europe. And with social indicators, with people living below the poverty line of 170 million people without access to fresh water. So you see, we have a lot of challenges to tackle. And of course, many opportunities to improve, such as the ones I discussed in the first block. So we have a group where we have 3 entities together. We have the public part, which funds and finances and supports the development of policy making for government, and we also have investments. We have the private arm, if you will, of it, where we develop through capital markets different projects, and we have the laboratory part where we work on different startups. So when we have all of those 3 together, we have $175 billion invested, and little by little, we work on important fronts of the development banks. We have the upstream, where we create different policies, creating regulations, providing technical assistance in the different countries where we are, preparing this projects that can be financed, creating taxonomies and the analysis of those too. We've been really contributing a lot to having a sustainable Brazilian taxonomy, and we design different solutions too. We also talk about the real stuff. Yeah, we try to work on the real things. We finance the debts, we finance the projects. We have a huge financial capacity to do that in our local currency too. I believe that Luciana talked about it before. We talk about debts a lot, but there is a huge need for us to change Latin America, to level it, to make it go up, to go to another level. So the laboratories that we have works with different startups, and we try to finance the middle market. And we also work on a new platform too, that is going to act on a major scale. We have different kinds of financing methods, and we use our investments to provide guarantees and mitigate the risks of some of the tools that are in action right now. And right now, we've been administering and managing more than $1 billion in donations from the investment funds and from other donors too, for us to be able to fill this gap in the market and promote this mitigation of risks. But this innovation that was brought to the group, something that we've been trying to implement, we really want to take a stance as something multilateral. It's the private sector-led DFI, always acting in the private sector too. Today, the private sector represents 30% of the bank resources, but in this new model, it should go up to 60%. So all of the growth of the group should come from the private sector. We're able to approve, together with America to the United States, a capitalization of that. The IDB Invest. And we have different metrics that are very different from the national banks. For us to be able to finance a project, we need to prove that we mobilized additional resources. So you're never going to see that group taking over 100% of that. So we really need to come up with a partnership. We go up to 50% only. So, of course, we want to have 4 or 5 more investors together with us in different transactions. Since the very creation of it in 2016, we've been able to come up with 60 billion in actives, which really shows this focus that has been done in crowding. And now we have a new project, which is used in investment banks, which is the original share. We want to generate those bank assets. We want to come up we want to work with risks in a bolder way. With the guts, we want to take on risks. We want to work about this originate share, coming with this the different risky moments of the transaction. We want to make sure that the distribution of those risks is done in the market. We don't want one end to be more risky than the other. And we really need to come with different institutions to work on the structure of all of that on the long run. Globally, we've sold $1 billion in bank assets, a synthetic operation that we transferred our risk to open the capacity of investment. And right now, we're working with the private sector again for us to have something local deployed, where we're going to originate or generate those bank assets, working with different investment banks to make it available to the market for them to have this fund and for us to have this long-term quality too. We also work with thematic bonuses. We've been coordinating all of that. We are anchor investments in thematic bonuses. We worked with green bonuses, social bonuses. We worked with sustainability. We came up with creative economy too. We've worked with the World Bank too. This is our bet for the COP30, developing taxonomy for the Amazonian banks too. We are quite flexible. When we talk about the Amazon forest, it comes together with the Amazonia para Sempre program. So we're trying to conserve the forest and come up with an economic strategy for the population to reduce poverty there. So we really need to work on different projects in the cities in Amazonia, in the Amazon region. And obviously, we've been reviewing all of our bases on the guarantee products, how we can get involved in all of that for us to have more investors in the game. We give some guarantees for the external bonuses, and we want to replicate that in our local markets too. And we are participating in this initiative, thinking about a solution to guarantee all of that for nature-related projects. We work on AB loans too, where we work at the loan market. And now we have an AB bond, something created from that. We have a connection between all of that. So we really want to bring this new basis of investors to the country. We think about different classes of bank assets, how to bring new investors to the market. Thank you very much, Natalia. And now we're going to wrap it up with Luciana. We really understand that the financial instruments in the market have been implementing different ways to unblock the capital. And in this scenario, with different risks, which we have seen already, we can think about new instruments. What are the lessons that we can get from the international scenario for us to grow in maturity in this Brazilian ecosystem of sustainable finances? Well, we have 2 points of focus, I believe. When we think of SPCOP, we see that it has a very important role, different fronts. I think the first mission that we had was for it to be a legacy as an institution. And Mr. Mussa has been all over the world to guarantee that this movement wouldn't be only in Brazil, but that it would also reach a global level permanently. And inside all of that, which was done successfully, I believe that the finance team had a very important role with this global view, which was collecting data, different cases from different places in the world. Right now we have 50 odd cases, and out of those we have 20 in Brazil, but the others come from different countries. For us to see innovation on how to solve the current problem. And I would say that there are two themes that are relevant. For example, one of them is the next frontier that we need to reach. We talk about financial instruments or tools, but just like Joaquim said in the beginning, there are two different projects. One is mature, and the other doesn't make sense economically speaking. For example, green hydrogen makes a lot of sense in a technical way, but in an economic fashion, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? And the lack of, oh, of course, hydrogen is just one. Fertilizers is another one. We have many others. And the difficulty that we have in these projects is the absence of a buyer that will guarantee that this product is going to be in the market. And this off-taker doesn't exist for some reasons, due to the price, the costs, or the project risks. So what do we see? We see a series of different product innovations trying to address those two themes. When I think about off-takers and the price, sometimes we see that there is a green price that nobody is willing to pay for. So who is the person from the very beginning of the technological revolution is down to paying for that, for him to have like something good on the long run? So that is one of the issues. And the absence of those off-takers is seen due to the price of commodities, the problem with conversion of currencies. So we see different contracts that are trying to reduce that volatility. So this is all connected to the pricing. Of course, if you have more risks now, you need more benefits ahead. So those little constructions are worked on, and we see that the next frontier lies there. A second element, after many discussions by the SPCOP, now I realize them as being relevant and important. For example, we see, well, Natalia mentioned that before. For example, the BID, or for example, the capital stacks. We have a product. In that same product, we have low risk, average risk, or high risk, and all of those different levels. We have different returns connected to all of them. But those stacks are connected, are in the same time frame for each project in a vertical fashion. So we really have to make it horizontal. What does that mean? Well, when we take a look at the projects that we have very long chains, and everything takes too long to be done. And all of that time frame will attract different capitals. So rather than doing that vertically, we have to do that horizontally. What's the difference? But that already exists, no? For example, we have different people in different segments. That's true. But when we see something that is vertical, everybody's unified in the same operation. So we have different people from different segments, but working on the same timeline. So we need to actually distribute that better on the time frame to make it into an orchestra. For example, the one that is at the end of the chain, you will know that there is another one at the other side of it who's going to take it, who is going to take it over after I finish my job. So when I think about the place where we're going to need the most efforts to be put forth, the new frontiers, I would say that this is horizontalization of the capital stacks. Little by little, we learn a lot in this process, don't we? I would like to give you my testimony on that. Usually when we work on regulation, we think of standards. What are the standard regulations that will reach most sectors? I was working on a panel of the iron industries where a professor, a German professor, brought something interesting. And I was like, wow, this is very pertinent and relevant. He said, well, the world is going to need 3 or 4 trillion to change the situation of the iron and steel industry. And inside the different plants, the iron plants, the world will need $1 billion. Oh, I'm sorry, $1 trillion. Not in the chain, of course. He separated that. So this thing that you said about having the chain going from its beginning to its end, it was something that he said too. He talked about logistics, transport, mining. This is something different, but I'm talking specifically about another point of the chain. $1 trillion are needed to have that transition feasible. For example, he goes out in the market, he gets maybe 30 companies that are worth a lot of money, and sometimes they are worth $400 billion. And that's it. Well, now we have a problem. We have a huge problem. We need $1 trillion. But he brings to the game companies that worked that out with public capital. And at the end of the process, those companies had more debt and they were worth less in the market. That was as things went really south. So when we see all of the different possibilities that there are, for example, the possibilities that Dr. Natalia mentions, the participation of the PID, well, I think this is a look that needs to be fractioned when we see the whole chain of the different sectors that are involved in it. I really believe that BID has this outlook, but I really think that needs to be further discussed to see every different sector and their specificities. I would like to tell you that now our time is up, and we have to go on and move on to our next panel. Thank you very much, Natalia and Luciana. Thank you very much, Cristina, that was with us a bit before. And I would like to apologize for the 4 minutes that we exceeded. Thank you very much to our moderator, Roberto Muniz. Now we're going to move forward. We're going to move to our second panel in this event, Financial Innovations to Mobilize Private Capital, which aims to discussing different tools that are innovative that can unblock capital, private capital, towards low carbon emissions. We would like to invite some of the friends to our platform. The moderator is going to be David Tempo.
We also want to invite the Director of the Associação Brasileira das Entidades do Mercado Financeiro e das Capitais, Kaká Takahashi. Also in this panel, the Director of the Sustainability of Confederação Nacional das Seguradoras, Cláudia Prates, and also the advisor of the Director of Infrastructure, Energy Transaction, and Climate Change of Banco Nacional de Desenvolvimento Econômico e Social, the BNDES, Fabio Cono. So let's share the, give the stage to Davi Bom Tempo. Very good day to everyone. Good morning. It's very important to talk to this very important subject. And first of all, I want to thank the CNI team, bringing very well qualified and skillful people, and they really understand this kind of subject. And this is very important to have this discussion till the COP30. And also to, because we have been talking about solution, now we are going to talk about innovation. So financing, it's a subject that we have, that I always say that it's very important to have, to talk, to discuss too. Mainly when we talk about bioeconomy, the energetic transition that was highlighted by Levy, and it's something that we must take very careful look. And we know that we are far from the ideal, but we know that we also have great opportunities to get this, and we need to have the way to facilitate this. When we talk about the flow of international investment, we must understand what it is, and we need to understand how it works. Nowadays, we have 600 million of annual flow, but we still have to look at the obstacles in everything related. We have to talk about the guarantees, when we talk about the small and medium size companies, it's a possibility to find a way to solve this problem, and also discuss about the innovative factors that we have here. When we talk about the small carbon gases, we need to have financing. Financing, it's the core of this discussion, but we also have the regulations related to this ban, which is a very hot subject. We also had an information yesterday about the BBI related to this, but it's all connected to the financing, the trading, and all the comparative advantages we have. We have to have a very clean energy, how to bring to the game the biogases, and also the direct emissions we have in the industry area. In the thing we are competitive, which is related to the energy, the Britain event, but also we have lots of other opportunities. So we have to be in this kind of discussion to connect all the points, the bullets, and also to have the financing and the money on going forward to this subject. And it's the way I want to discuss, and I want to start. And we have a question that will be related to the three ones. We need to have a less time of discussion, because we are in the panel in between the branch, so it's something very complicated. But we want to start with Claudia and ask with all the ones in the panel, all of them represent a very powerful they represent powerful companies and institutions that can help us, and what are the roles and how we can overcome all those challenges. Claudia, thank you, Sinai. It's this is my home. I have been part of the BNTS many years, and when I used to work there, I used to work actually in this building, so this is my home. The ESHAG represents the insurance companies, and the company invest 36% of the public debt. This is because Brazil is not used to catastrophes, but well, it didn't used to, but now we have been seeing a lot this. And the insurance companies are worried related to the environment insurance, building insurance, and when you sign environment insurance, you don't have some information that we are going on in this, and we are subject of these climate changes, of course. But we are going to talk about the adaptation, how to mitigate this, and the role of the insurance companies and the factor we have the power of induction to induct our clients to the best practices. We know that it's very expensive to the transition to the industry. Of course it is. 7 to 8% of these financing, but we also have the emissions. How we get in the tech zero? We have the way we had here a class with Joaquim, that Levy, that he talked a lot about this. He explained a lot of things. He talked about the new technologies and instruments that we can use, and how Levy said the bank sector is very new, so it's very active in the market, but it's a sector that it's really starting. How we work, we need to start. How do we mitigate? We first need to protect. So it's important to take a look to the most affected people and help them and protect them. And the protection talks about this as well. But it's important to talk about the project risking. For example, if you create a project in a forest, when you talk about the fire, the wind, you need to analyze the whole risk, and it's important to have this. And we are doing this, calling the insurance companies to create new products to guarantee and the environment, and how to insurance the native forest will be safe and protected. It's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to help how to mitigate this problem. This is not something that we really care about now, but in other countries they do, but we are now changing our ideas, our minds related. Brazil may get in this area, reducing the risks of these contracts, reducing risks of the performance of those projects that can be very risky. We have the SAF, for example, when we talk about the seeds that are not in the market to the harvest, and we can be the partner of the capital market because we can reduce the risk of those projects. And also there is our attitude of the banks as banks, because we have this taxonomy of Brazil, which analyze the whole capital banks. And we are here to help to organize the source for the companies that are looking for to deploy the best practices to their employees. And it's important to understand this part because sometimes Joaquim has also said about this. I'm not going to take this protection into account, but as much as we leave the risk freely, for example, more the insurance company sector can be present and taking and inducing the best practices in the capital market. And this is very important as a disseminator of good practices, just not just for innovative situations, but for the whole market. Good, Claudia, you have discussed lots of things, and Brazil is in the way. You mentioned the taxonomy, how we have the other opportunities that are launching, the environments, we have the carbon market, how it works, and we have the governance of this sector. And it was very important because you mentioned that it have been adjusting this, but it's very important because this is one of the biggest challenge we have, and we are going to connect to all these points today to the international market. But I want to bring Kaka to the talk. Kaka is the chairman of TechRocks. It's one of the biggest investor of technologies. And well, yes, David, thank you very much. Let's go to the challenge. We have to talk in a short time about a very complex time. We have here two challenges because before the lunch, it's something, and the other after the branch, it's another thing, much more complicated. Now, using what Luciana has said before, it's one of the challenge that if we're not working together, if we are not connected, will be harder to be overcome. And the insurance market, which brings very big relevance, mainly after the events that are impacting the insurance companies, these will influence our market or the financial market, which brings impact to the price. And this is the risk that can be priced and should be priced, of course, because this will be changing the final price of the product, and this is very important to highlight, to emphasize. And Bima, it's a very plural company which evolves many different companies which distribute and help. And also we need to recognize the ESG, that the market, the capital market, it's very relevant to the governing. And to bring this agenda to this direction, it's very important to discuss this. And nowadays in Brazil, we have just on industry, we have a net of 10 trillions. And if we have in the last few years 8 millions of asset issued. Just in the second quarterly, we more than 170 million. And how it, just to give you an idea how it works in this market, and how strong, how powerful this is to move this agenda. it's important to Ambima has four basic functions. One of those functions is to regulate, to inform, and the other to advocacy and to represent, to educate. But I'm going to start from the back to forth. We must start and work well in the literacy and education, everything which is related to the capital market, to the investment, but the society in general. The final investor need to be educated in this area because they need to understand the new risks, the new opportunities, and consequently about new products. We have a very strong work in Ambima that we make some investments in education, but we ask some subjects that can be like obligatory in our system. And it's a very important way to deal with this. And another very important way is the information part. It's a way where you get the knowledge, not only in Ambima, but we have partnership with another company like Joaquim mentioned, which covers the research, and this is the way we divulgate this and bring the subjects to the investors. We have the funds and dividend as well, which will help. And this, it seems like it's small and something obvious, but simply translate a material from one language to the other, it's very important. And also we help this in content part. I could talk a little more about products, but I want to highlight the importance of these working together as the mitigation and the identification of sustainable opportunities and how we can issue the green titles, and also how we can analyze the market in terms of sustainability. But the main point, which I consider actually the main point, is and which will be talked in the COP30. It's how to cooperate and collaborate together. And how to Ambima mentions how to bring the financial market, because we have in the financial area many players, many people who already act in the impact funds and things which are very powerful. But we also have the mainstream, which is in the middle of Faria Lima. And of course, we need to find a way to bring those companies to this agenda. And so we discovered that we need to start working to other companies like Febraban, ESAG, with Cavia. It's important to bring this. And now we are with the industry. And it's very important to have this. And I'm going to have a very short spoiler. We are going to work together in the COP30. We are going to be together with the ESG and FEBRABAN. We always have been together in the financial part, but we are going to be there with all the population and to get the adequate subject to bring to the population, and how the security we have to the capital market and the insurance market as well. And this is very important message that we need to share. And they must know related to the climate and how the energy source, but also we need to show how our capital market is constituted, is built. And this is how we're going to have these two connections, 2 points connections that will show this. And of course, we cannot forget to mention the BNDES, which it has been doing a very great job. And I have the arrow now to the equities.
We know that the agenda is quite extensive. We also have Eco Invest, which is a $17 billion program, together with the private sector totalizing 30 billion. You see that this is quite relevant, which is an example to bring to other markets too. And from the secretary, I heard something that I've really enjoyed. Those are programs that need to take place for us to be able to roll, to make everything roll, to go with the game. We need to come up with different tools, instruments, solutions. So what started as income investment will go to maybe nature investment or something like that. We're going to follow different paths. There you go, Kaka. Thank you very much. And listening to what you've said, as I heard the whole process that you've echoed, how to evolve, how to make the theme evolve. I remember that I started my career in the financial world. I remember that was over 20 years ago. Time really flies. I remember we didn't talk about sustainability. It was not a topic. There was no correlation. It was a world that was completely disconnected from that. And when I started at CNI, in a meeting with at B3, we discussed how to connect the corporate world to ODS, to the ODSE. So if a company met the requirements of 3 different ODSs, they would have different ways to operate with lower taxes, depending on how they met the ODSs. But of course, that was all very theoretical. And now we're talking about taxonomy. So we see how everything evolved, how everything really grew up. Now bringing Fabio to our chat. Fabio, we know that the induction power is necessary. We need incentive. So we see that if this is a little below what we expected when it comes to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's true that we need to work on monitoring, control. We need to also use public incentives. We see that that's something that is coming up through the low-cost hydrogen. We see some incentives connected to that. For example, suspending some tributes connected to it. So we see that that has been well outlined inside those policies. And this is good for us to have that until we reach full competition potentials. But I would like to know more about this incentive. What can you say about that? Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank CNI and Levy. I would like to salute Kaka and Claudia, who is our long-term partner. We've been working together for a long time. So BNDES, sorry, is very well known in Brazil, but we really don't know a lot about how it acts. So I'd like to give you a little context, how it is inserted in the whole context. So BNDES is 73 years old and is really working on the financing of the Brazilian development, both industrially speaking and also development-wise. And I was like, oh, today I'm going to meet up with Claudia. We know that the first wind farm was financed by BNDES 20 years ago. I'm not going to reveal your age, Claudia. She was responsible for some of those first operations back in the day. So I know that we were trying to come up with the figures, the numbers. I think Claudia was still the head of the climate department in the bank. And we know that BNDES is one of the biggest funders of that in the world. So we're really trying to bring that all into perspective and show how the bank is relevant in this history agenda. This is not our bank, it's a Bloomberg's bank. We've invested billions and billions of dollars in wind farms and biofuels, ethanol, and all of the related chain. And I really believe that that gives a view on how we, well, if the energy sources in Brazil really works with renewability, I think that is all associated to how we've been using the resources that we have. And also to the capacity of the bank to understand this potential and support it. Having said that, now looking to where we are now, which is quite challenging. And I really believe that Roberto gave us a number, a figure that gives us the dimension, $1 trillion to decarbonize the iron industry. Oof, this is a lot. And yes, at the moment, how do we view all of that? This is a bank, a development bank that doesn't count on subsidized resources. With the TLP migration from 17 to 22, the bank stopped having subsidized resources. So our funding is essentially connected to the Treasury Department. And we have some initiatives and some public policies that the government and the bank together, as the executioner of those policies, are trying to allocate or to place those resources. For example, we have the climate fund, which was relatively small in the past. It was not quite relevant as an option before different industries, companies, and projects. But in 2023, we wanted to bring it from 600 odd million reais, to way more than that, 100 million. We know that it's not enough to fund the whole climatic transition. But we've multiplied that maybe 20-fold. So we're really trying to cover a bigger chain of segments and services. Before, we had it all restricted to small operations and specific ones, but today we can finance the whole green industry, fleet electrification, renewable energies, both the generation of it and also biofuels. We have forest agendas, which we've been working on, which is a priority for us. We've been working with a lot of our resources and time, thinking outside the box and structuring those projects. We have a huge area in the bank to structure those forest concessions, which is quite expensive too for the government. And we've been trying to support the development of all of those industries. I really believe that one of the friends here was a good, she gave a good ad for the bank. But our role is quite vital and we are very present in that. Thinking about the future, I would like to thank Claudia again. We've done it several times. But throughout the last year, we worked, when Claudia was working in the bank, we worked on structuring and releasing a BEEP, which is a platform for climatic investment. It's supported by 4 different ministries in Brazil. BND is the secretary of that. And it was originally conceived as a hub. You're able to concentrate the different portfolios of private projects. None of them are public, which from an economic standpoint need to give us some return, ROI, a return of investment. Always working with decarbonization. It has a huge climatic impact. It's working with green hydrogen, ammonia, forestation, forest restoration, if you will. All of the nature-based solutions, critical minerals, So we're concentrating all of those projects with public policies defined by the respective ministries that I mentioned. We bring the potential funders for the local debts and the international ones. They are definitely potential investors. We have 16 projects today, $22 billion in investments. And this was maybe in October last year, so we're almost a year after that. And we identified the main problems, the main barriers, obstacles that we need to tackle, and what the main pillars are to solve all of that. And we know that those obstacles are common to every entrepreneur in Brazil. And we know that this whole climatic change world, the problem of Brazil is that the capital costs are very, very high. And this is valid for all segments, not just the climate one. So one of the big issues that we have is the capital costs, which are quite high in huge volumes. If it was in small volumes, that would be easier to address through concessions. But what we've been doing with deep, well, it's a reference, it's an initiative. Whenever we talk to foreigners about that, they really like that because we see the priorities that the country has. For example, Natalia with the ID, investment bank, development bank, sorry. So we've been discussing some lines that are very important for the industrial decarbonization. We have some regular resources from CIF, the Climate Investment Fund, which is quite concessional, 1% per year. We have a similar discussion with the World Bank. For example, BNDES, the last operation that we had with it was in 1990. It was 35 years ago. That was the last year we operated with the World Bank. And now we are coming together again with many concessional resources. So just to finish that up, we have some of the projects that we're trying to innovate with. So it's true that we don't have a lot of resources to support all of that agenda, the infrastructure agenda, the industry agenda. All of those are complicated. They're quite expensive for the bank. So we see those initiatives, and the bank has become a funder for those agendas. But besides that, it's also been a mobilizer, a capital mobilizer, trying to reduce and attract different resources, trying to break the barriers of certain segments, trying to attract private capital from banks, insurance companies, capital markets, which is an avenue that we need to explore, by the way. We also need external resources. And we know that what we're trying to get won't come only from local capital. And we know that inside SB COP, we have two things to release, to deliver, two deliverables. We have recommendations, we have 8 tasks. So we have some activities that need to be done, and we have some cases too, ways to take the lead through example. So really need to show people how the private sector has contributed towards that. We've received different cases, over 700. We've been trying to generate the awards, a refined selection. And I really believe that all of those want to have that access to financing. So we're trying to connect all of that to those financing lines that are available today, just the EP, the one that you mentioned, and many others that are in the market. So I believe that it's a facilitator connecting the funder to good project. Now handing it over to the end, to the final speakers. We're going to talk about innovations. Let's hand it over to Claudia. What her views are on those opportunities and innovations, the legacy that the COP30 is going to leave. Very good. I would like to comment on 2 things. Something connected to what Kaká mentioned. We have a partnership. I was going to say that in the end, so as a little spoiler. And we have a good partnership. It's called COP Journey. We've been having webinars every 15 days, sometimes every week. Each of them has been contributing towards, for example, we've been working with insurance companies about sustainable practices. Sometimes we've had 700 people, 500 people in the same webinar discussing climate issues, carbon emission, sustainable projects. So we have succeeded. We have succeeded quite a lot, we would have to say. And we are going on until we get to COP30, the COP30. We've been working with 10 different insurance companies, investing between blue zone and green zone. We've been building that now. We have events in the morning in different insurance companies and brokers, bringing people from overseas to talk about their experiences. And we also have a partnership with 5, SNIF, APDIB. So we're going to have a lot of different events. For example, resilient cities, circular economy. There are different discussions that we're going to have with foreign speakers too. So we're going to have 2 very intense weeks where we expect to see different innovations. We've been working on different cases, different insurances to support the transition, the climatic transition, and also working with tools for us to collect more data and more instruments to be worked with. Something that we've been worked on this year is to look at the climatic disasters from 2024, 23, 24, and 25, the first semester, collecting all of the data from insurance companies to see the coverage of those events, and to check the insurance gap that we see in Brazil. So we really need to collect data and see where we have to grow, how to offer coverage people and protect people's properties. So in order to avoid the government to use their public resources. So whenever we think about different bonds, a catastrophe bond, we can think about that. We can think about different funds that will be used. We can use some money from BNDES, for example. We have the KEYNOTE funding. We can get parts of those concessional funds and create some catastrophe funds. Because we know that little by little, we're going to have more and more events, more and more costs. And we know that our government doesn't have the capacity of bearing with that, of handling all of that. We really need financing to rebuild companies. We need rural insurance too. Out of the 89 million hectares in Brazil, we only have 7 that are insured. We have a diminishing of the insured hectares. So we really need to bring that issue to COP30 and show the importance of having some resilience with the insurance companies covering that first layer. We really need to evolve and thinking about those different bonds. So we've had a lot of profitable connections thinking about those different solutions that we're trying to deploy. And still mentioning BNDES, thank you, Fabio, for your work. Yeah, we've had a lot of different partnerships since last year building this platform, and I really believe that we're going to leave a legacy in the country. We need to show people what we've been doing. The platform is important for that. And recently, we are working with CNSEG, have affiliated ourselves with them, and we're trying to use a case for us to release some product to make it feasible, to make the funding feasible, to restore agriculture and industries, diminishing the risk perception for banks, for us to be able to have better financing. So I really think that Brazil has a lot to show. The cost of capital is a barrier indeed, but we have to show good things to people. We need to see the cup half full, the glass half full. Like in the past, we were monitoring all of that work. Luciana and I, B20 with CNI, did a very good job So the NSEG has been putting forth efforts to become a confederation to help in the climatic transition, attracting insurance companies, just like you are doing with the industries, for us to work together. We have to put our efforts together. We have to put everyone together and have a teamwork and show people what Brazil has been able to do in the meantime. Throughout all of the difficulties, we had pro-alcohol, for example, which Brazil is ahead of. We have our renewable energy sources. And when we have that, producing steel, for example, the steel is moved by diesel. Sometimes we miss motorways, we miss railways. So we need to come up with improvements. So this climate funding was very important. 200 million reais, which was increased to 300 million. Now we have more safety. And now BNDES does blended financing with all of that. So we have insurance companies supporting that with us. And with that, we're really trying to get that transition done. And I really believe that Brazil has been behaving very well, and they have a lot to show. Since 1990, wow. I didn't even know about those dates. But still adding to a point, we have India, who is who is very important in this scenario. It's an emerging country who has been loaning in augmenting their production of petroleum. So we've been discussing a lot of different countries, but we don't think of the resources that we miss, that we lack. But still, Brazil has a lot of different advantages. We have to talk about the good things that we have in comparison with other emerging countries. For us to get there, to get to that climatic transition, we're all on the same boat, the same boat, the same plane, however you find fit. Whenever we do our homework, well, that can't be done individually. Everybody has to work together. It's a complex thing, but we are doing good.
Perfect, Claudia. We want to remind that since SEG was partner of Azerbaijan, and now we are going to be the COP together. Fabio, what you have been planning in the finance part, Kaká, what you have been talking about the finance. Claudia has been talking a lot about this. There's nothing new. We're not going to create the wheel again. We have the COP30 as a milestone that will be the fresh start for many things that we want to go on. And as Claudia has mentioned, because we have lots of journeys that we'll be discussing about sustainability. There is the information journey that will impact many companies. There are many, there is an agenda of deployment of some good practices and some information, not only to the companies, but also to the finance department. And we also have the COP30, and many people don't know what COP30 is and what it involves. How important is this? And the blended finance journey, as Claudia mentioned, in this innovative world. It's not something brand new, but it's something that we have to cover in the schedule, in the agenda, that we can use the capital in the long term in a lower cost, which will bring the investment, and that will bring more because of the risk that is taking this project. I'm going to bring something about the BlackRock. Out of Brazil, we have been seeing lots of investors that have been working with the blended finance in terms of philanthropy in the United States mostly. And it's a very interesting way to bring some innovation to what we have been doing. And also in terms of this innovation perspective and how we can adequate the instruments we already have in the market we are exploring. We have the capital market, which will fulfill some issues that we have. For example, the agribusiness have. I'm going to talk a little about something from the past. When I working in Banco do Brasil, I worked there for 40 years, and we used to work in this. And the market has been creating some instruments to deal with all these issues. And also we have banks that the debentures that are instruments that have been very well used. But now we need to rethink how we can have instruments of this kind to multiply the possibilities to apply these funds. And this is a very relevant talk. I'm going to wrap up with something very similar that Luciana has said. We need to look at everything in a horizontal way, that everything connects. We need to look for the future in every mechanism connected, because the mechanism in the big factories are not the same to the ones used by the small factories. If you were in a small producer, the one who were creating porks and chickens and the countryside of Rio Grande do Sul and Santa Catarina, you made those small farms growing, and then you motivated them to get technology, and this has increased. For example, Embrapa has done this very good service. And also you brought this to the big producers, which is under a big umbrella and following the same model. And maybe we need to rethink the whole models to create or to cover all this chain. As good students, we must show the notebooks, we must show the homework, and we need to show those to the right people. We have been evolving in showing to the right people. Sometimes I make some jokes that there is a financial institution in Brazil that wanted some agent of BlackRock in New York, and I did it. And this guy was the person who was in charge in a structure in the United States. So the person said, "Oh, there isn't another way, because this day I don't have, because in this day I have lunch and with this Brazilian company, scheduled this in Brazil, because how many times you come to United States to talk to a big company, American company here? We must use well our thoughts and mind, because if I'm there and I need to be attractive to the guys there, and we don't do it. And Brazil, sometimes we're doing business with people out, but Brazil is doing business with Brazilians. We need to evaluate this. And also we have Fabio here. Fabio, we just letting you know that we are between you and the lunch, so don't worry, no pressure. Just to wrap up what Kakai and Claudia said, just going further what BNDES had just said, we have working capitalistic economic. We have the climate fund. When we do blend it with the national source, we have a very relevant scale. We have the 15, 20 billions a year. We have multilaterals bringing the BNDES with other companies, and that are a very good and important source. I think the Eco Invest, we must understand that we is a blended finance scale in Brazil, because it's an example, because you're using a concessional resource in a tax very low, pre-4 native, and we must use this as a private sector in the co-invest, and also, and it's a very intelligent initiative, and it started to engage the local banks. Now we are addressing these instruments that we should show to everyone how we can mobilize funds in a very global scale. The second, and the graded dress, and now, and the third, I'm going to comment initiative we have been outlining, which is the next round, which will be a call to invest in eco, but the risk capital on the equity that because it's a problem about the cost, because the creditor has a protection, this provider has a protection, so everyone works in the equity covering, because this is the main role of the equity. The BNDES has been engaging projects like this, and to wrap up this subject, 2 weeks ago, the bank, we started a call, which is a call to the equity that we started. We had this deficiency, disability in this area. It's a call for 5 billion reais. It's the biggest call the BNDES brought, and 2 funds of credits, and 5 millions to each funds, and 3 funds, which is the ecological transformation, which is a generalist, and the other can be industrial or energetic, or based in the air environment. Everything is covered by BNDES. That Claudia helped us to outline this. And I think one of the most important is the BNDES is not working, is not going to work alone. So André Correia Lago is going to bring all this, like every Brazilian mentions, like Mutirão, which work together to have something done. We are going to have 3 funds to equities and to SAT. The call, it's not investment of 5 billion. We estimate 20 billion reais to be invested, and this is something very smart that Brazil has bringing. And we have been discussing the 300 billions to 1.3 billion, and we must dedicate efforts, resources to work in this agenda to develop new products. But we must offer instruments with our resources. It's not a donation, it's not a third-party investment. So it's like the Congress think it's important to make this investment, and it's going to be the call for the market return. And this is the idea to mobilize BlackRock, and the opportunities to convince them to start working with us, because this is an agenda that we cannot work alone. And this is an example. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are many sovereign investment that can use the eco investment as a model, and we can have this as a quote using the resource of BNDES and here and the other. And there is a big work to have, and it's important to have these sovereign investments because there are lots of good projects, and good projects, of course, will have the good investment. I'm so sorry I have to wrap up here. I'm sorry. I would like to thank you, Claudia, Kaká, that brought the important information that copy is not an event, it's a process, which will be an increasing process of investment. And talking about the education, the risk, which is part of the copy, and also the CNI. We will start having lots of international events, and in June we have the Rio Cup in Brasilia. In the 13 and 14 we have the pre-copy, and on 15 we have the copy in Belém. So we will have the whole program, the whole schedule, all the places will be, and all the partners we have with the CNI, and how it's going to be organized and performed in the occasion. And also we are going to discuss about the positioning in terms of dealing with funds in a way that will be discussed in Belém. It's a way to highlight all the process we will have in copy in Belém. And of course, we want to count with all of you and count on all of you to have this project done. We want to thank David Bontempo, who was the moderator of this panel. And we also want to thank all the panelists who worked here, and also the ones who were attending this event, Sustainable Finance in Future Sector and online. Now we want to invite all of you to the branch, which will be in mezzanine. Good lunch and good afternoon.
From chasing after the way you love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so lovely. I keep on running, no, I should've wanted a high. I keep on falling right into your thought, I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet, everything I wanted. Sugar like yes, please, love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet, everything I wanted. Sugar like yes, please, love is like candy. Oh, what a rush each time you catch me. Chasing after the way you love me. Color my life up like confetti. Baby, you make me feel feel so la 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 lovely. I keep on running, no, I shouldn't want it. I keep on pulling right until you're gone. I can't get you off my mind. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Nothing out there could ever stop me from chasing after the way you la 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 love me, keeping me up 2 cups of coffee. Baby, you make me feel so la 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 lovely, 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 lovely. So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy.
There you go again, looking so handsome. Oh, you have your way, and it's making me weaken. You and your stardust, walking like that. It's really getting too much, but I can't pull back. Though I try to resist, I can't fight this. And no one makes me feel like you do. And no one sets my body on fire. And no one gives me shivers like you. Oh, no one does it better. How I try to sleep, but you're deep in my mind. Got a hold of me. When I'm awake, I'm all blind. You and your magic, like infinite power. God knows I tried to resist, but you're pulling me closer. Oh, I gotta stay away, but you won't let me. And no one makes me feel like you do. And no one sets my body on fire. And no one gives me shivers like you. Oh, no one does it better. No one does it better.